Craig Ripley here. Welcome once again to Living Off the Slab. Today I'm here at Mom's in Foxborough, Massachusetts, because I'm going to take out one of these bad boys behind me, the new Yamaha Venture for 2018. So as you can see from that video, I got to go out yesterday and ride the new 2018 Yamaha Venture, thanks to the folks up at Mom's. Now this Venture is a bike that I've actually been wanting to ride for, well, about 3 years now. And that's because if you remember back in March of 2015, I put out a video that was discussing a bike that was seen riding out in California. And we were looking to see what kind of bike it was, because there was some speculation that it might actually be the new Victory Vision, the bike that you see behind me. But in reality, it turned out to be this Venture, and I went through the process of trying to identify some of the parts and pieces that were on the bike to see if we could figure out what it was. And I was correct, it was the new Yamaha Venture. Now, of course, it wasn't until the end of last year, 2017, that we found out that the bike in question was actually the new Venture. And Yamaha has since released not only the Venture in 2 package options, but also a new bike that they call the Eluder. So the Venture, their fully loaded touring bike, it comes in 2 packages. One, a basic package, and then also with what's called the Transcontinental Package. And that Transcontinental Package, it includes things like satellite navigation, Sirius XM radio, fog lights that are included, dual zone audio controls, and a few other niceties to really round the bike out. The price of the base model for the Venture, well, that is $24,999 or $25,000. And if you want to get the Transcontinental Package, well, that's going to run you $26,999. Now, whatever model of Venture that you purchase, it comes with a number of standard features. And I'm just going to read them to you because there are a lot of them here. First of all, it has a 113 cubic inch engine that is 1,854 cc's. It is air-cooled overhead cam, and it has 8 valves. That's 4 valves per cylinder. Right. Now, other standard features include ABS, traction control, 2 riding modes, that is touring and sport, heated seats, heated grips, electronically adjusted windscreen, 6-speed manual transmission with a slipper clutch. It is belt drive, of course, hydraulic brakes front and rear, and it has a really cool feature we'll talk about in a minute, and that is the Sure Park system that again helps you in parking situations, reverse and so forth. The seat height on the bike is 27.6 inches. It has a 6.6 gallon tank, and the total weight with the Transcontinental Package is 963 pounds. Now, $25,000 to $27,000, well, that sounds like a lot of money, and it is, right? But really, if we think about it, the Venture is actually quite a bargain in this class of bikes. If you look at the Harley Ultra Limited, for example, it goes for $27,000 before you start adding anything to it. And if you look at the Indian Roadmaster, it's about $29,000, again, before you start adding any extras onto it. So the Venture, it has a lot of features that you can't even get on either of those 2 bikes for under what they start selling at. Now, what Harley-Davidson and Indian do give you that you're not going to find on the Venture, well, that is a quality fit and finish, right? Harley-Davidson and Indian are going to give you a lot better paint, a lot better, fit and finish than you're going to find on the Yamaha. It's just the nature of the beast. If you look closely at the paint on the Yamaha, well, you're going to find some blemishes and some orange peel and things. You're going to find, cable routing that isn't optimum, isn't very attractive, but again, that's just the nature of the beast. When you're going to buy something like the Yamaha, you're going to buy it for the value that it's given you. If you're looking for that ultra high fit and finish, well, go buy an Indian or Harley Davidson. So while we're talking about fit and finish, we might as well touch on the design of the bike, right? The aesthetics, right? Because this is going to be one of those bikes that you're either going to love it or hate it. just like this Vision back here. So personally, I kind of like this design, right? It reminds me of the muscle cars from the 70s. If you look at that front end on it, it very much reminds me of an old Hemi Cuda or a Challenger, right, from the 70s, right? So it has that kind of cool little retro vibe by still being a little modern. All right, so now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Pun intended, right? The weight of this bike, the size and the weight of this bike. It is big, it is long, it is heavy, at nearly 1,000 pounds. So being that I'm an older guy, right? I'm 59 years old, or almost 59 years old, and I'm starting to get concerned that riding a 900 plus pound bike with my wife on the back and a bunch of gear, when is that going to get too much for me, right? When am I going to need to go something that's a bit lighter? Right, so when I'm looking at this bike, again, I'm concerned about that, and I think other guys my age are going to be concerned as well. So given those concerns, the first thing I did after I got on the bike was I headed into the back parking lot down at Mom's, and I did a few circles to see how I could handle this bike at parking lot speeds. And actually, I was pretty pleased with it. Now, I couldn't turn it as tight as I can that Vision there, mainly because I'm not used to it and it's not my bike. I didn't want to risk dropping it, but I could make a U-turn pretty easily in both directions. Right? It really wasn't a problem. The bike holds its weight very well. It's down low, it's a little bit forward. So again, I was very pleased with it. So how the SurePark system works is you put the bike in neutral, and of course you need to have it running, right? Then you have this lever here that you pull out and you push it down. Now once you have that down, then over here on your hand control you have a forward and reverse that will let you move the bike, again, front and back. It's a completely separate electric motor that does this. Now I'm told that you can only run it for something like 40 seconds or something like that, so there's a limit on how long you can use it, but it's pretty cool, and especially with a heavy bike like this, I think it comes in real handy. Now with that said, this bike is long and it is heavy. It does not turn quite as well as the Vision does here, and it definitely does not turn as nicely as like an adventure touring bike like my Tenere does, right? This is a bike that is designed to go long distances in comfort, right? It's a big land yacht. It is not designed to tear it up in the twisties. So speaking about comfort, I was actually very comfortable on this bike. The seat is very comfortable. The reach of the handlebars were good for me. I mean, I'm not that tall. I'm only 5'9", but the bike fit me really well. I might have to bring them back just a tad, but overall it was really nice. I was quite comfortable. And they have one kind of really cool feature on the seat there. There is an adjustable, I won't call it backrest, it's kind of just the slide that pushes you forward a little bit, because it doesn't come high enough to give you any lumbar support. It mainly just touches your rear end, but it does allow you to can push forward a little bit in the seat to change the reach to the bars. Now, one thing I really like about this Vision is that it has a great wide open cockpit. Right? When you sit on that seat behind those bars, it's just nice and wide open. Everything is out in front of you and you don't feel cramped. So the Venture here, that feels a lot more to me like my Vision than it does like a Harley Davidson or an Indian. Right? There's a lot of floorboard space and there's a nice wide open cockpit area that doesn't make you feel cramped. So the engine note on the new Venture, I think is pretty nice. It's a nice, low, deep rumble. And the exhausts that they have on there are not obtrusive, right? They're not obnoxious, right? They're just a nice, low and deep rumble. Now, this engine also puts out a pretty good amount of torque, right? To the rear wheel, at least from what I've read, it puts out about 109 foot-pounds of torque at about 2,750 RPM. So this bike likes to be ridden at low RPMs, right? Its sweet spot is right at that 2,700 RPM range, right? You go over 3,000 and again, then you're getting it out of the sweet spot. It redlines at 4,750. So once again, this is a bike that's going to like to be ridden at really low RPMs. And I tried to lug it down in several corners, and normally when I would drop down to second gear to take a corner, I was taking them in third gear, and it just went right through it. So again, nice torquey engine. So for the Venture, there's a button on the right control unit that says mode on it, right? And you just hit that once and it changes back and forth between touring and sport mode. What touring mode gives you is a nice easy ramp up in power. What sport mode gives you is as soon as you hit that throttle, well, you get pretty much all the power that the bike has. So it just comes on a lot more quickly. All right, so let's talk luggage capacity here. The Venture comes with 38 gallons of storage space, a really huge cavernous top trunk. I was able to take both of my camera cases and put them on top of each other in that trunk, something I definitely can't do here. Right? The Vision, it only comes with 29 gallons of storage, and we have always wanted to have a little bit more, but we've managed with it. So having the 38, well, that would just be heaven. So talking about luggage capacity here, let me get on my soapbox for a minute. Because even though the Venture has all of this luggage capacity, its carrying capacity is only 408 pounds, right? Again, and some of you may say, well, hell, that's a hell of a lot. Well, not really, right? If you think about it, the average 50-year-old middle-aged couple, which is going to be what's going to be buying this bike, right? Those are the people that are going to be interested in this bike, right? They easily will go over 400 pounds if you put gear on them. I know my wife and I do. And yes, I know we should lose weight. All kidding aside, though, that is the problem with these big, heavy touring bikes, right? You get them up in this 1,000-pound range, but their frames can only handle so much stress. So you take this big engine and all of the other gear and electronics that go along to putting the motorcycle together, and now all of a sudden you don't have room for what's really important, and that is the rider, the passenger, and the gear. All right, so that's a pet peeve of mine. All right, one of the reasons I bought the Vision here is because it has a very large load carrying capacity, right? I can get myself, my wife, and about 40 or 50 pounds of gear easily on this bike and not exceed its load carrying capacity. That's not true of the Venture, and that's not true of a lot of other big touring bikes out there. Alright, so I've mentioned a few things that I liked about the bike, right? It did ride extremely well. It handled very well. I had no problems with any of that. It was quite comfortable. But there are a few quirky things that might not be deal breakers. They weren't for me, but I think that they should be mentioned. So first of all, I want to talk about the gearbox on this bike. Right now, while I didn't have any problem missing a gear, all the shifting was very nice, very positive. It was very smooth, actually. The lever moved nice and easily. The problem is that, like most of these V-twin touring bikes, my Vision included, it's very clunky, right? It has a huge clunk when you engage. On this Venture, especially in third and fourth gear, I mean just this huge bang when you engage the gear. Again, the lever travels fine, just when it engages, it's boom. And you could literally feel it all the way up into the clutch, right? Your lever would literally vibrate as you engage the gear. And I've never felt that on any bike before. I don't know if it's just a quirk of the particular bike that I was on or if all of them do that. And again, I'm used to riding a bike with a clunky transmission. I do that every day. But this was quite loud and, again, quite large, right? It vibrated me every time I did it. It took some getting used to, and after a while I didn't really notice it that much anymore. But it's quite big. So another thing that's a little quirky is the keyless ignition system that Yamaha is using. And I know it's pretty standard nowadays in bikes in this price range to go with a keyless system. I don't know, I'd never had one and I don't mind turning the key. I don't know what the big deal is about that. But most of the bikes now are going with this keyless systems. Well, in this particular case, there's a dial right up near the gauges that you have to turn to get the bike to power up so that you can then start it the old-fashioned way with switch, right, ignition switch over on your right handlebar. So this dial has an off, an on, and an accessory position. So you look at it and you turn it to on, nothing happens. Okay, so you turn the dial again, nothing happens. The dial will spin all the way around, again, nothing will happen, right? So I had to go in and ask how the hell to make this thing work. So I guess what you do is from the off position, you push the knob down, it then clicks, and then you can turn it to on and the bike powers up. Again, once I got used to it, once I knew the combination, it worked fine. But again, it's just a little quirky kind of a thing, something that you would have to get used to. All right, so I know the big question here is, should you buy the bike? Well, again, I'm not going to answer that question. That is up to you, because buying a bike and finding the bike that's right for you is really a personal thing, and each one of us has our own list of items that we need to tick off. However, if you are looking for a bike in this category and you want something that has a lot of value to it, I think you should definitely check out the Venture. Go out and give it a ride. I know if you're here in the Massachusetts area, moms would love to let you go out and take one for a ride. So I guess that's about it, right? Go out and decide for yourself. All right, we'll talk to you later.